Well, I was educated at the University of Toronto. I have an honors BA. I specialized in political science. I also have a degree in urban and regional planning from Ryerson University. And I was employed with the University Health Network as a project coordinator for their construction projects along University Avenue. I worked Toronto General, Toronto Rehab, Princess Margaret. I've also worked as a project coordinator for a branch of the Ministry of Education of Ontario. And then most recently I was a city planner for almost 3 years with the City of Edmonton's Planning and Development Department. And I've lived in the ward since '99, but I was working there for a few years as a planner.
Okay.
So yeah, so I believe those items in particular are important, working collaboratively with different people, especially with being a city planner. You do work as a consensus builder and a mediator with different stakeholder groups, community groups, and developers. But I think more as a role of a city councillor would be as a advocate. I mean, if there was some sort of issue that my community, wanted me to rally with them on, I would probably be more of an advocate, not the bridge builder, consensus builder, as I was with the planner. I think I am the only city planner running, and from what I'm hearing at the door, there are a lot of city planning, rezoning application issues, development issues in our community. And so I think it's important to have somebody who can essentially be your planning consultant on these issues and have knowledge about the process and educate the citizens. Part of my platform is to hold town hall meetings, to establish community associations, not only in my ward, but all the wards that would have an executive voted in by our community, a board that would be involved in the planning process and would make an open and transparent process. So I'm trying to re-engage the community, and I think that's what you have to try and do, and to start with. Just to send out those newsletters. I haven't received one newsletter from Councillor Feldman on what's going on, current items going on at City Hall that would interest our community. And so you have to try and at least engage the community, all ages. But I think when the youth of the community see a younger person representing that community, that entices them. Well, I certainly believe we need a change in the representation we're having at City Council, in terms of having a City Councilor that will listen to the community and represent their interests at City Hall, having somebody who lives in the ward represent the ward at City Hall. We haven't had that for some time.
Doesn't Mike Feldman?
No, he does not.
He belongs to the synagogue in the core of the ward. I know that
Perhaps.
much. But he does not? No?
No, he lives in my grandmother's building at York Mills, near York Mills and Bayview. York Mills and Yonge Street.
Oh, okay, no, I didn't know that.
Yep, and he's lived there for quite some time.
Oh,
so.
Okay, I thought he lived in the ward. Anyway, go ahead.
And I believe that's important because you want somebody who also has a stake in the community and what's going on and the redevelopment that's occurring. And so that's just one aspect. Also, in terms of what I'm proposing in my platform, to try and get these community associations all across Toronto to be involved in the planning process and to make the process more transparent. I'd like, for instance, at the City of Edmonton, they have the Planning Academy, where city planners educate the public on planning matters and the process, and that's something I'd like the City of Toronto's planning department to look into. Well, currently there's a proposal to have to demolish the current plaza and to develop 2 6-story apartment buildings on the site, as well as townhomes, as well as a townhome/condo developed. So 4 big projects on the site, plus developing new roadways. And so that brings, along with it, traffic concerns, parking concerns, infrastructure concerns. And as a planner, my opinion is this is way too high density for this mature neighborhood. Currently, you're allowed commercial. Currently, you're only allowed 2 stories, I believe, above commercial. So they're going from 2 stories to 6 stories times 2 developments. So it's just, way too extreme for this neighborhood to be transitioning from that to this kind of high density development. And that's what I'm hearing from neighbors around the community, that they're opposed to this development. And actually, there's a ratepayers group who's involved in the process through the numerous revisions. This is the latest revision. And another community group has been established, which I joined, who are concerned about the development and don't believe their voice was being heard through the ratepayers group. And so they have started working, on ideas for this development.
So Bathurst Manor Teabag Association.
I would say so.
And then
starting out.
And then a coffee club on top of it.
Right. So there's a lot of people who are involved, and that's what I'm trying to get at. We need to establish a larger tent to get more people involved and bring everybody together, and that's not happening here. So
what is your view for Bathurst Manor Plaza or Wilmington Plaza?
Well, obviously I think there needs to be a redevelopment. I also believe there needs to be a commercial element there. I don't believe you should necessarily change the zone for sake of changing a zone. It's been there for some time. We certainly have to protect the character of the neighborhood, and elderly people do like going to that plaza to shop, and a lot of them are saying, if they're taking away the commercial, where am I going to go for my milk or just the minor small items that I need to get. It's a convenient item to have. So I would like to see obviously less stories, mixed use development, not such at a high density. It has to be appropriate for the neighborhood and something to the benefit of the community. And I don't think that's the case as it stands.
Yeah, the plan does seem to call for at least 1,400 square feet of commercial space on the main floor.
That's a recent proposal. They weren't suggesting that at the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's something, the pressure from the community, and that's something I would encourage. Yeah, I would say that needs to be
changing.
Right.
For the better, because originally it was just going to be two large condos, actually, if I'm not mistaken, and those were multi-story.
Right.
So, I mean, the municipalities, they get their funding from mortgages. From property tax, right? So it's almost in their best interest to have higher density development because there's more people paying property tax. Also, the developers, they pay huge amounts of premiums to the city to develop that. So, I mean...
Well, I'm all for infill development and having people live in the existing city of Toronto, not going out to the suburbs. But we're talking particularly in my community, in Ward 10, there can be this type of development all over Toronto in wards that are, and neighborhoods that are acceptable to this. I'm not saying limit this to all of Toronto. We're talking about a specific neighborhood with a specific character. And there are other areas in my ward that would be appropriate for this type of development. I'm just talking about smack dab in the middle of this mature neighborhood. Is it appropriate to have such high density and apartment buildings where there were never apartment buildings 6 stories in this neighborhood? Is that appropriate? There's going to need to be a plan amendment as well. So we're doing something that's not in the existing zoning, not in the existing plan for the community, and you're asking the city planning department to change that. From my experience, you're only supposed to change planning and zoning when it's to the benefit of the community. You're supposed to protect the zoning in place. So I don't necessarily...
What would benefit the community here?
Well, like I said, I think it has to be something closer in line to what the current zoning entails. So if you're going to go from 2 stories to 6 stories, that doesn't fly with me, and that doesn't fly with a lot of people in our community. It has to have the commercial element. So more of maybe a walk-up 4-story apartment building, not as many units. And certainly you could have single detached homes. You could have townhomes there with a commercial element as well. So there's different ideas that could happen there. It's just the apartment buildings is something I think that's the major thing that are scaring people.
Well, I don't blame them.
Yeah.
Because if you saw the neighborhood, it's largely flat.
Right.
From the air.
Single detached homes.
Single bungalows at that. They're not very high even.
No.
So, and all of a sudden you've got this huge...
You're going to have this monstrosity development, yeah.
But I think this is certainly a case where people need to be active politically.
Right.
Because if they're not active politically, then the politician in office basically has 2 hands in front of him that he has to weigh, where he's getting revenue from the new ratepayers, and he's getting revenue from the property developer to basically build a monstrosity.
Well, I have to disagree with you. I don't think there's a problem at all with what side the councillor has to be on. There's no issue here in this particular issue. You should be on the side of the community, because this is a highly contentious issue. The community is saying, like I said, there's already two groups starting against this issue. There's obviously a community movement against this. And as a city councilor, you're the advocate for the community. You're not the advocate for the developers in the community.